Namaskar, welcome to Learning Rhythm. My name is Dr. Hemant, and thank you. First of all, thank you for subscribing this data visualization e-learning course. This e-learning course we have already discussed that what we are going to cover in our previous lecture, and what are the aspect what you expect from this and who can attempt for this, of course. And you are already watching this video, then of course you have liked it, the idea, and then we hope we will learn a lot and will have a bunch of fruitful learning from there. So as you can see the title, this is overview of Python programming language, where we are going to cover the overview of Python language, why we are learning Python, what are the different technical terms which are we are going to frequently use, and there are certain basic concepts you should understand when you are running the code. Then if you know that how it is being utilized or being used by the computer and how you are getting the results, then it makes it easier to accept change and understand the process, and also sometimes work around your program or codes to understand better that what sequence manner it is followed, and how you can understand that what is going to happen, what code is going to do in the computer, and then you can expect the result. So that will fine tune your ability to better code and make the same code in a much sharp and brief. So let's begin with the introduction first. So let's have a look here. So Python is a high level language. High level language we'll get to know the difference about high level language and low level language in a moment, but first let's have a look, understand. You should know that Python is a high level language. High level language means it is straightforward for humans to read and write, and also to computer for read and process. For example, there are other high level language you might have heard of, if you are aware. It is like Java, C++, PHP, Ruby, Perl, JavaScript, and many more. So these are all high level languages, where this is very human readable, and it can easily written by humans, and also with the help of interpreter and compilers it can be easily processed with different kind of computers. So we'll again read in a moment what is interpreter and compiler, how they work here, but in a brief introduction part, I think that should be enough. So the main hardware inside the central process of the computer is a central processing unit. We also call it CPU, which don't understand the high level language. This is the high level language meant for humans and translating those codes to computer, and there are interpreters and compiler which does the main job to convert it from high level language to low level language. But this high level language, this CPU cannot understand. For them, we call it the language they understand is machine language, right? So when we talk about machine language, then they are the series of 0 1s. It seems very easy, like 0 1 0 0, but this is not very easy to write. Actually, it's not very feasible for a human to write this machine language, where you are going to execute billions of calculation in per second or something like that. So that kind of codes you cannot write. So there you are going to use high level language, where we are talking about Python is one of the high level language of that. So of course, as I mentioned, that machine language is very complex and much more complicated than Python, and that's why we call it high level language, where it is more interactive with the humans. We can write in a much easier way, and then it can be easily translated to computers. So before we go deep into the Python programming and the details and the technical terms, first let's have a look at about how the computers are built, how they work. That will be very helpful in understanding how the codes are processed in there, right? So first of all, if you see the computer programs, then they have four main components. The first component is CPU, the central processing unit. You call it in short CPU, and its job is to ask always a question, and what question is that, what next. So this always keep asking what next. And then the second unit is main memory. We also call it random access memory, or RAM, where you put the program, and that gives the instructions or answers the question of CPU what next. So this keeps giving command to CPU to perform the task and keep asking, and the cycle goes on. Now if we when we say about So when we say that where the data is stored for permanently, so for that we use read-only memory. We call it ROM, and that is also called secondary memory. Secondary memory, right? Where the data is stored, and you have then input-output devices where you can have your input-output device, where you can have your let's say monitor as output, where you see the display, or keyboard or mouse. They are input devices, right? So these are that. So if you talk about where the software part comes, that comes into here, where you store the program and then you load it temporarily in your RAM, and that gives the execute the codes and give instructions to CPU, and that perform, and they communicate with each other, and the final result is saved wherever you make the destination, right? And then you have a network from where you process the details. So this is all basic about the computer architecture, how they are built, and how the programs and other things process in there, right? Now let's have the other technical term understanding with the program and the programming. So when we talk about program, it's a set of instructions written in advance and stored in a computer memory to answer the CPU what next question that we discussed just before. And then what is programming? The act of writing the instructions down and getting the instructions to be correct, called programming. Getting it correct means the code is instructing, it is doing the job for what it is written. So if that is working, then the process, the act of writing this kind of instruction is called programming. And of course, if you are writing this program, then you are the programmer, right? So there are very important vocabulary and grammar you should understand for different programming languages. For example, if you are talking about C or Python or Java, whatever, so they have their own vocabulary and grammar, and that you have to understand, because that's how, if you don't correctly give the syntax to them, they will not understand and they will not execute perform the task what you are going to give. So you have to understand the vocabulary and the grammar for different programming languages. So here in this case, we are going to understand the Python syntax and how they are understanding when we are communicating to them, and they are communicating to the machine, and they are performing the job, right? So there are some reserved words. We'll also hear about variables, strings, float, integers, all kind of parameters, technical terms will be used, and that of course you know from mathematics what are these. But there are some human readable words, which we use mostly, and also that have been used to make it understand and interact with the human, and that we call it reserved word, or you can say the vocabulary for Python. And there are some good Python reserved words. I can give you some example. For example, the and we are writing, and you can see edge, class, that we may not use class right now. Here let's have define, delete. Mostly the for loop and conditional options like else, if, else, import, in, each, lambda, not, or, range, return, while, with, try. So there are many actually, but these are the some words we are immediately going to use in our upcoming study, this data visualization part, and you would encounter these reserved word, and you will see if you are using it as a variable, they will get a syntax error, because these are reserved for the Python language, communicating with the human and the Python, and then you should not use it for other places, because then this will not understand. This will be confused, like what is being asked and what we are going to say. So this is about the different programming languages the reserved words. So you may have a different reserved word, different languages reserved for different programming languages, but they can have a different vocabulary or grammar, but the problem solving skills, the pattern and the way they are going to flow the code to the machine are going to be all having the similar concept, and then the problem solving will be the same. Now comes the very important point, the interpreter and compiler, and where it becomes very clear about high level language and low level language, and what are the roles for this, which we heard routinely in our previous discussion. So an interpreter is reads the source code written by the programmer and purge it, the source code, understand it, what is being asked, and translate it to the machine, translate the instructions on the fly. For example, Python is an interpreter. The language we are going to learn, Python, is also an interpreter, which reads the, once you write a sentence of Python, the syntax, give the command in a code form, the Python in a real time interact with the code, understand it, and translate it to and perform the task, and also again ask the question what next. Similarly, the compiler runs the process which converts the high level language into the machine language and save it into the file, which can be executed later whenever you need it. So this is the role of interpreter and compiler. I hope you understand the difference and where works what. So talking about why interpreter and compiler. So the machine language we are talking about, which understand the understood by the computer, is not very human friendly. You cannot write everything in that. It is going to be very complicated, and of course once you are changing the machine from one to other, then the machine language is tied to the hardware of the machine, so you cannot have the similar machine language for different machines. It have to be it can be dependent upon the hardware as well. Also machine, as I said, the machine language is not portable across different devices or different type of hardwares. There the beauty of high level language, which can be moved between different computers by using a different interpreter or the new machine, or recompiling the code to create a machine language version of the program for the new machine. So that way, with the help of interpreter and compiler, you have now flexibility to use different types of machine, different hardwares, and then they can be accordingly converted to their machine language with the help of interpreter and compilers. So in summary, we have two programming language translators, and the two categories that we discussed is the interpreter and compiler, which is not done by machine language. We cannot do, but with the help of interpreters and compiler, we can do a lot of things. For example, Python, we'll see how it is easy to write it in and communicate with the Python, and then get the task with the Python with the computer. Talking about Python interpreter language, so it is written, it's a high level, Python itself is a program, and it is written in a high level language called C language. The source code of Python, you can visit this website, you can have a look at the source code if you have a better interest and understanding about how they are written. And when you say Python, when you are installing Python in your computer, it means that you are copying a machine code copy of the translated Python program onto your system. Now talking about the programs which we are writing, then what is the conceptual pattern? So the first thing is that input to the program, and then that input can be given from your keyboard or might be reading data from some sensor or some kind of. Then there is the output, which you will display the result, and for that you are store the results in a file in your read-only memory, the secondary memory as we discussed, or you can display it on your monitor, that is the output device. You can perform the sequential execution, where the statements of one statement after another, they are executed in order and then as they encountered in the script. And that should you remember, when you execute a Python code, it tries to execute line by line. Means if you have all the lines correct, but upper line have a syntax error, it will not go further, it will stop there. And also it will not perform the latter task first and the previous task later. So it have to go in sequence. So that you should also remember in Python when you are writing your code, the sequence should be followed. Of course, you can check for conditionals. You can put conditions before, if the conditions are met, then it will go further, otherwise it will do some other route. So that conditional execution is possible in Python as well, and any programs the structure is there. You can also perform repeated set of statements repeatedly, and you can do the same calculation or with the slight variations, and that is possible. That we call it repeated execution can be done. You can do the same sort of code again and again. You can give it a name, and then you call that set of code within that name at later section, where we call the define function. As you have seen some time back, we are talking about reserved words, which are where we use return or define or raise kind of words. Now when we are going to execute the coding, for example in Python, we'll come across this different type of errors, because once you write a code, that is not necessarily it is going to be immediately 100% sure. You will get lots of errors that will before it get executed. So there are different kinds of error, and the technical term we should understand that what kind of error you got and where you should look for if you resolve those kind of error. So first thing is that syntax error. Syntax error means that you have violated the grammar. I mean, as we said that there is a particular sequence, the vocabulary or the grammar should be followed. If you don't give them in their correct grammar, they will not understand and they will not execute it. You will not get the desired result. So there, this is the very obvious and very first error you will see when you are going to execute Python codes, and that we call it syntax error. And very good point with the Python that it will tell you exactly where you have called in which line it has created the error at what point. Sometimes it may be the error may be before, but we will have at least the starting point where you can look for and start debugging. We'll see what debugging in a moment, but this is what you do once you encounter this kind of error. The other error you can think of is the logical error, where your program has a good syntax, but it is there is a mistake in order of the statements, or perhaps mistake on how the statements related to one another. That I said that they follow the sequential manner, and if the conditions are not met or they are not given in order how they should be, you should not be getting your desired result even if you have written your code correct. For example, consider you have a bottle and you just pour a bottle in your glass, right? And then you have backpack, you put the bottle back, but you open the bottle, put the glass, and without closing the bottle neck, you just put the bottle back and you walked around, and later you just tried to close it. So you know, here is a logical error. You could have taken the water and you have immediately closed the bottle and then kept it. Then this would not have later difficulty or no flowing of water, and you could have not saved the problem. So this kind of logical error, you can see a very simple example, but of course you have to relate it in a codes. Once you are doing it, you will understand better there. But of course, for better concept giving, I think this should be enough for understanding that. So there is a third type of error, that is semantic error. Semantic error is when we use description of steps to take is syntactically perfect and in the right order, but this is not simply a mistake in the program. There is simply mistake in the program, and that though you have written the program perfect and correct, but it is not doing the job you are intended for. So that kind of error is the semantic error. For example, you have written the syntax correct, you have followed all the sequence, but let's say you wanted to have 2 plus 3 into 5, right? And say you want to have a result and you expect the result should be 17, but you are getting you expect the result to be 17, right? But you have made a slight mistake, though the code and syntax are correct, but you just put a break here, and then your expected result is 17, but you are getting 25, right? So everything is correct, it is executing, but you have made some small error like in the brackets in the equations wherever you are following. So this kind of error can be there, and then you should look for that kind of error and solve that. So these are the basic 3 types of error you can encounter, and of course you will be more clearer once you are actually doing the programming and encountering the error. And encountering the error is good, because there you learn more, and then that error will be resolved and you will keep understanding how to make it much better coding after that. Now, as I said that you come across the errors, this is very obvious when you are beginner learner. And then the step comes where we talk about debugging. So debugging, whenever you are talking about Python, you give the the error when you intend to write something and you expect that the output should be something like that, and then it is not performing, then there is a error in that code, right? So you begin hunting for that code. Where is the error in that the written code in your program, and the process of finding the cause of the error in your code is called debugging. So that's a very simple definition for it. So when you are debugging a program, there are four things you should try. First thing is that reading. It means that you go through the same code again and see if there is a where is the problem, whatever mistake you have done. First of all, you go for the errors, the error message you are getting. You know, when you are getting, the Python have a very good job. It gives the error where it's pointing towards the line where you have performed the error, and look at it. What kind of error it is? It is a logical error or syntax error or that kind of error. You will get some starting point there, and then you can resolve. Also, you can perform running, means you just change the minor version, notice on what changes you have done since then it is not performing, and then keep changing and keep running, and then you will find that how the problems may be resolved in many cases. The other thing is that you can do is that ruminating, means you can take time, think about that, what could be the error, look at the error, if it is a syntax error, logical error, semantic error, what causing the problem, where is the problem, what result you are getting, why you are not getting, why this kind of message is coming. If you give a sit back and think a little, and then it will have a clear mind, and then it will be very helpful to pinpoint where exactly it is causing that error. Sometimes the problem is not resolved at all, and then you can think of reading. For example, let's say your code is not working at all and you are not able to debug where the problem is. Then what you can do is that you can delete the code and you can rewrite. Of course, if you don't like to delete it, then you can just save a copy and then restart, refresh from the beginning, and see if you can resolve the problem. So these are some tips for debugging your program, and you can figure out. And of course, practicing is the better way to understand and to learn more, and then that once you do the practice, you will understand all the details. But keep in mind, these are the four types of things which you can try depending upon the cause and the problems you solve. Now let's for beginners, some glossary. We have used the word, but let us give them a brief definition. So for example, when we say compile, it means that we translate a program written in a high level language into a low level language all at once in a preparation for later education. What it means with the high language, a programming language like Python that is designed to easy for humans to read and write. Low level is again the programming language that is designed to be easy for the computer to execute, also called machine code or assembly language. Purge, meaning that to examine a program, analyze the syntactic structure. Program, a set of instructions that specifies a computation. Semantics, it means the meaning of the program. As we have seen also the semantic errors, the meaning is not solved if it is not performing giving the desired task, so it's called semantic errors. Source code is the program in a high level language, it's called source code. Now a quick question. I think till now we have seen that what is Python, now the machine language, the difference between the interpreter, compiler, where the Python stands, and what are the different reserved word, what is their meaning and all. So I think we should be able to understand and give a brief answer to this. And before I show you the answer, you think of based on the previous till now learning, that what would be your answer. What are the following contains machine code? The Python interpreter, the keyboard, the Python source file, a word processing document. So think for 1-2 minutes and just give your answer, and before you see the next, pause that, and if you have the answer in your mind, then press again, and then this is the answer. Python source file is the source code. As we have seen that Python itself is a program, and it when you save it, it is converted into machine code and saved in the file for later execution. So it is the machine code. Python source file itself is a machine code saved in your machine. Now next question, there are many high level language you can perform the task, then why to choose Python? Of course you are free to choose whichever you learn and you find suitable, but what I feel personally for scientific calculations and the researchers and like myself, I have used it, and so lots of scientists, they have plenty of data they need to visualize and interact with that data, then Python can be a good option for that, because it have a very rich scientific computing libraries, and also it's a free and open source software widely spread with a vibrant community, and a variety of powerful environment like IPython, Interactive Python, Spider, Jupyter Notebooks, PyCharm, Visual Studio. There are all lots of work environment are available which you can utilize based on your need. Of course, here we will be using Jupyter Notebooks, especially as I said, it is for researchers, scientists, engineers, and they will be very well benefited with this kind of usage. Of course, it is very huge because the syntax are very common, very close to the human interaction, how you interact with each other. Easy communication, as Python syntax is very simple, avoids strange symbols, and there is no much lengthy root specifications. And also it is available for multiple platform. For example, either you are using Windows, Linux, or Mac OS, or many other OS, it is use-capable, and you can perform well with that. It's a very readable language with a clear non-verbose syntax. Now let's have a look at the Python core numeric library which we are going to use frequently. The first of all is the NumPy. NumPy is the numerical computing with the powerful numerical arrays with objects and routines to manipulate them, and very important foundations when you are going to do the data structuring and data calculation in between to prepare it for your data visualizations. Then NumPy is going to play a very crucial role in there. Pandas, when we are going to structure the data in a desired format and we are dealing with a huge number of data sets, then Pandas is going to be very handy. It's a rich data structure and function designed to make working with the standard data fast, easy, and expressive. So this is the website link. You can have a greater look on that and the basics of it, and of course at a later section, once you have this foundation, you will be able to understand more when we are visiting the website and interact and get more maximum out of it. The next is SciencePy. Though we are not going to cover this in this course, of course we will be using NumPy, Pandas, but SciencePy is more about analytical part, and then it's a high level numerical routines optimization for regression, interpolation, etc., which is more into analytics. So though we are not going to cover, but this is again part of Python's core numeric library. And Matplotlib is the 2D visualization publication ready plots you can perform, which is there are many other sub-libraries have been made based on Matplotlib, and this is a very strong foundation. We are going to learn in detail about that because you are talking about data visualization. Then we'll learn NumPy, Pandas, and Matplotlib, and many other related libraries needed for better data visualization. So now let's have a look at the Python based interactive environment. So the first is IPython, Interactive Python we call it, and you can have a more details about IPython on that. The one which we are going to follow in this series is the Jupyter, the work environment. It is a browser based notebook. The more details about this you will be able to see at jupyter.org. We'll learn more about installation and how you are going to perform the interactive visualization and data handling with this. We'll learn more detail. And for the Python package, we are going to use Anaconda, which is a fully featured scientific Python distribution, and we'll install the Jupyter notebook as an interactive environment for data visualization and analysis, and we'll see how to utilize it and perform interactive data analysis with the part. Now talking about Python, so there are two versions, Python 2 and Python 3. So which one to use? So if you see Python 2, the support for Python Software Foundation have been stopped from 1st of January 2020. It means you will not get many update or feature update for Python 2. So of course then Python 3, which is currently mostly widely used, is going to be a default choice for everyone. So we are also going to use Python 3 for this. Talking about good references, you should follow a very good reference if you want to have a much better and deep understanding about Python and many other related queries. Of course, there you can do visit Python website, Pandas, NumPy website for more details, more very good examples. Once we've gone through this e-learning lectures, then it will be very in a good position to understand those things there, and of course you can maximize your learning from there after that and make it more advanced level calculations, visualizations, and analytics in that regard. But beginning, you can also apart from this follow these reference books. There is open source available website where you can get all the details, which is by Python for Everybody by Charles from School of Information, University of Michigan. And also you can go through the SciencePy lecture notes, which is a very good lecture note on data, interactive data analysis and visualization for that purpose. So this is all about overview of Python programming language. I think I hope you have got a sense of that, what is Python, what is interpreter, compiler, where Python stands, and how they are handled in the computer, what computer actually does, what is machine language, how Python and other high level language is different from low level or machine language, assembly language, and what are the differences. This should give you a basic foundation of why things are there, why we are following a different pattern or particular pattern to perform the certain task, and if you are doing this, then how the machine is going to interact with that, and how the things are going to execute, and how you can expect. So these all learnings will help you, to in your mind, to understand the full process from your coding to visualization of the data. And once you understand this, then you enjoy doing it, and you understand the concept and better able to take a much smarter or much intelligent route for your coding and for data visualization. So hope this is a brief introduction to Python overview should be helpful for you. Now in next lecture we will discuss about installation of work environment, which we are going to use for our data visualization and data analytics, data handling part. So see you there. Till then, thank you.